Hey guys, this is Mark Kennedy for Poker VIP. You guys may know me as Full Tilt's new player ambassador, and I've been asked by John to make you guys a 50NL video. So I'm going to do that now. It's going to be a live play video, and I encourage you to leave any comments or questions on the forums, and I will do my best to answer those for you. So straight away we have the short stack on the button. Decides to raise, and we're obviously going to defend here with our king 6. We go ahead and flop top pair, so I'm just going to look to check call. When he checks behind here, I think we just have to start leading into him on the turn, and it's just a case of sizing. So I think most of the time our bet size is not going to affect the decision as to whether he calls or folds, so I'm going to tend to go slightly larger in that situation. And obviously just folding the jack 6 under the gun. I'm going to be streaming for probably about 45 minutes, and hopefully we can get into some pretty interesting spots during that time. I'm going to be a little bit limited to the content as to what hands actually come up during the video. Here with the king 9, I'm going to turn my hand into a 3-bet bluff. This player folds a pretty decent amount to 3-bets, and having this king blocker is very valuable in these situations. And big blind goes into the tank here and then decides to cold 4-bet. I mean, obviously I'm just going to be folding here. There's really not much else to say about that hand. Here with the 7-8, I think I'm just going to fold this hand. The big blind is not a player that folds his big blind too much, and therefore those sort of weaker middling offsuit hands are not going to be strong enough to steal. If we had a couple of really tight players in the big blind, I think you can definitely make a steal there, but when you're going to get called a lot, it's just not going to be the most profitable situation. And here with the 6-8, I'm going to have to defend my big blind. It's not a great situation given that the original player who opened is so short stacked, but getting 5.5 to 1, I just can't fold. And obviously we flop top pair and a gutter ball here, so we're kind of hoping that this guy c-bets as he does, this guy folds, and then we can just re-raise. So this guy calls behind. I think I'm still going to re-raise. I really don't like calling in this situation. And we just put ourselves in a lot of awkward situations on the turn, when like a jack or a queen roll off and they bet and call again. So this is unusual. I wasn't expecting that to play out that way. I don't think we really have much choice here but to just bet again. And we managed to take that one down, so a pretty unusual situation when they both call, but I don't think we can really take another line. If we check there on the turn, I think we're just going to put ourselves in some really awkward positions. Whereas when we bet again, I mean, we're over-repping the strength of our hand for sure, but at the same time, we definitely have really good equity against their rangers in that situation. Here, I don't know anything about the guys behind me, so I'm just going to fold this hand. Looks like the player pool's pretty small at the moment, so unfortunately we're going to have a little bit of dead time in between hands when we have to quick fold. Again, here with the 10-7, we've got 3 players behind us who all have sort of 50-60 BB stacks, and it just makes hands like that a lot less playable. If we had a bunch of full stacks behind us and 1 or 2 of them were players who didn't defend very much against steals, it's certainly a hand that I'd want to open, but when you have 3 short stacks behind you, it just puts you in some really awkward situations and really caps the range of hands that you can play. Here, I mean,
I really hate folding getting such a good price, but this is just a really, really terrible hand, so unfortunately I'm just going to let him have it. And here with the king 10, I'm certainly going to be opening this hand if it's folded to us, which it is. And they snap fold. And it looks like we're actually playing 5-handed now, which is certainly something I prefer to 6-handed. So, I mean, to be honest, I think my probably favourite situation is to be playing 3 or 4-handed. I like the fact that you just get to play a lot more hands in those spots, but 5-handed is pretty cool, and it should hopefully mean that we get a couple of extra interesting spots compared to if it was a 6-handed game. Here I'm just going to have to fold the 9-10 off suit. And we get a very pretty looking hand here, certainly going to be opening. I mean, this is an okay flop for us. I mean, I feel like this is a flop that we should be checking back almost always with this hand. We'd have to have a pretty decent read on the player to start betting this hand for value on the flop, I think. He goes right ahead and leads out for almost pot on the turn. I mean, when he does this, he's going to be fairly polarized, obviously. So I'm just going to call, and hopefully he does have some sort of air ball and decides to try and maybe bluff us off 2-pair or something like that. He snaps checks to us on the river, and I feel like well, I mean, obviously we have the nuts, we're always good here, but I feel like this is a spot where we're not going to get a huge amount of value unless he has a king. So I'm going to bet small, and hopefully I can try and maybe induce from something. But he just gives up, so it looks like he was just taking one random stab in that situation. We completely brick this flop, but obviously being a king-high board, and us being the original raiser, I think we can very credibly try and take a stab at this one. He calls and we turn at 6. I feel like my hand is actually strong enough to just check back now. Obviously we're beating hands like 10 Jack, Jack 10, 10 Jack, Queen 10, Queen Jack. And I don't think he's ever going to fold a 9 or a king on the turn, so I'm just going to check this down and hopefully we win. We do manage to, so I'll just have a quick look and see what he had there. Here's the ace-5 of hearts, so I think our read was right in that situation. Here with a 7-4, I'm just going to fold. Yeah, so going back to the hand previously, when we turn the 6 on such a dry board like that, I can't feel like there's any value in us betting again. Not really going to get value from much worse. I doubt he calls the turn again with his gut shot draws, and any like ace high floats like he ended up having are just going to fold as well. So I think just checking back the turn, and if he decides to lead into us on the river, we can possibly consider making a hero call. This player limps, and I certainly want to be squeezing these limps pretty hard, but Queen 3 offsuit is just going to be too weak. Here with a 6-4, I'm going to try and steal, I think. Our hand isn't great, but we do have position, and I have this player tagged as a slightly suspect player, so it's certainly a guy that I want to be playing pots with when I'm in position. We flop bottom pair, and I think I'm just going to check this back. I don't mind betting this flop, but I think checking back is just going to be ever so slightly better. Obviously we turn double gut shot here, so I'm still going to continue. And I think probably if he bets again on the river, I was just going to let him have it. When he checks against it quickly, I mean, I feel like he probably has an 8 here a decent amount of the time. Possibly some weak 10s. I mean, we can't obviously rep clubs very well, so I'm just going to check back, and hopefully he was just taking an air ball at it with a couple of overcards, or maybe a queen jack or something like that. Yeah, here's the ace-7. I don't think that hand's going to fold to a river bet. Here with the pocket 10s, I'm definitely going to be re-raising. Here's about 50 BBs, so I want to be going just over 3x here. I don't really play these stakes very often, in fact almost never at all. I don't think I've played the 50 NL games, so I'm a little bit unsure of some of the raise sizes, so I apologise if it takes me a minute to choose exactly what size I'm going to go to. I'm going to be opening the ace-10 offsuit from here. We managed to take it down. I think the ace-10 offsuit is close to probably the worst offsuit ace that you want to be opening from under the gun in most sort of medium to tougher games. You know, obviously the sort of softer game that you're in, you can expand that probably down to ace-9 offsuit, and in some really soft games even lower than that. But I think as a sort of general rule, ace-10 offsuit from under the gun is about right. Here with the queen-4, I think I'm just going to fold this hand. Both players in the blinds are short stacked, and my hand just plays terribly if we get 3-bet. I mean, this is a semi-interesting spot. We have the sort of mid-stacker who opens, but he gets 3-bet by a professional short stacker. And I feel like in this spot we just have to fold our hand. Even though we do have some really good blockers, the stack size just really limits the moves that we'll be able to make in that situation. And certainly opening here with the 9-7 suited, it's going to be a very playable hand. We get 3-bet by this guy, and we're a little over 100 big blinds deep here, but I feel like I just can't call out of position, unfortunately, even though I do think he's a slightly suspect player and we're going to have a pretty big post-flop edge. Just being out of position is just, it's pretty much the worst thing that can happen to you in poker. You generally want to be trying to play as many hands in position as possible, and you're just going to get yourself in some really awkward spots there, I think. We'd have to be quite a lot deeper. I think maybe if we were 200 big blinds deep rather than the, 120 or so that we were. I'm going to try and steal here with the king-3. It's unfortunate that both of these guys are short stacks behind us, but this is a hand that plays pretty well. And obviously having that king blocker is going to reduce the combinations of hands that want to 3-bet us. And obviously opening here with the jack-9. They fold around to us, and this big blind seems to be playing pretty tight, but he does have a decent amount of, a reasonably high sort of 3-bet percentage. Here on this board, I'm just going to check and check call. This is interesting. We check and he pots. I mean, I feel like when he does this, his range is quite heavily weighted towards naked 10s. So like a king 10, or maybe even like a 10-8, 10-7, 10-6, sorry. I think I'm just going to check jam. I don't feel like this is a bet size that he's going to use with his sort of Jack X hands. I'm surprised to see that. I was expecting to see a hand like King 10 a lot of the time, or maybe like a 10-6 or an Ace 10 or something like that, rather than a very weak Jack. But we still have really good equity against that hand, so I mean, I'm not really concerned. Here when we have the Ace of Diamonds, I think we can just comfortably check this flop back. He goes ahead and leads the turn reasonably large. I suppose it's not that big, but I think I'm probably just going to let him have this one. There's a few gut shots and stuff that we beat, but I think when he chooses that sizing, he's going to be slightly more weighted towards pairs than draws. I'm certainly going to be opening here with the Ace Jack that's folded to us. Under the gun opens, and I think I'm just going to turn my hand into a 3-bet bluff. It's not really a hand that I want to be calling under the gun raises with, but it plays very well as a 3-bet. He calls out of position, and I think on this board I'm just going to c-bet. Surprised to see him check raise here. And he's not really a player that I expect to be bluffing me in this situation, so... And we obviously have the Ace of Hearts, which is going to massively reduce his possible heart combinations. I feel like I just have to fold him. My guess is he's just slow played some sort of overpair like queens or something in that situation and decided to take a pretty bad line, in my opinion. Here this is a weaker player, and I'm certainly going to call in position against him. I think I'm just going to have to fold this flop. Even with a backdoor flush draw, it's just a board that he's going to have so many straight draws when he doesn't actually have a pair that we're going to struggle to make him fold, I think. This guy limps to small blind, and I think when we have King X in this situation, we can just squeeze. It's not really a spot where I expect to get limp re-raise very often at all. And obviously certainly opening the Ace-King here. We flopped 2 overs and a gut shot, but this is a board that is going to connect with their flatting range reasonably well. I mean, if we're c-betting there, we're basically just hoping that they both have underpairs to the 10, and while I expect one of them to have an underpair to the 10 a decent amount of the time, you know, you're a little bit optimistic hoping for both of them, I think. I'm obviously going to call this turn bet, and I think if he bets again, we're just going to have to let him have it. Yeah, he goes ahead with a pretty normal size here, so I'm just going to fold. Here it's unfortunate if he's got an unusual stack size. I wish he had slightly more chips, but I still think we should be going after these limps pretty damn hard. And 6-4 is certainly a hand that flops very well. And this is a perfectly fine board for us to see bet on. And managed to take it down. I think in those situations where you have this sort of unusual stack size, just limp calling pre-flop, they really are just playing fiddle fold. So, I mean, you're really just going to make a huge amount of money by squeezing them pre-flop and making sure you get to the flop heads up, and then you pretty much see betting 100% of flops. Here with the ace-6, I don't really know anything about this guy, so I'm just going to call. Certainly a hand that we could consider using as part of our 3-bet range. Well, and I don't know anything about the guy at all, I'm just going to play it slightly safe and take a flop with it instead. We flop a backdoor flush draw here. We obviously still have ace high, so I'm going to take a card off and see what happens. Not one of the greatest cards in the deck for us. Very unusual choice of bet size here, though. I mean, he chooses a small bet size on the flop and then just goes a quarter pot on the turn. I think we just have to raise here. That's very unusual. I mean, I guess I just made a bad read there, but I mean, with his choice of bet sizing, I really felt like he was weighted towards pretty weak hands that probably had some sort of drawing equity. I certainly wasn't expecting to get re-raised in that situation. I figured he might call a decent amount of the time, but then I'd be able to fire again on most rivers, obviously non-heart rivers. And certainly going to be defending here in the big blind. And obviously on this flop we're just going to have to give it up. And here, let's play a limps, and again we've got a very playable hand, so I'm just going to squeeze. And this is going to be a really good board for us to see bet. And again we managed to take it down. So I think you can see, just quite how profitable it is to be squeezing those limps from the odd stacks. Here with the 9-5, I'm going to go for a steal. I feel like players at these stakes are probably just not defending their big blinds wide enough, so I'm certainly going to be opening the vast majority of my suited hands. We open the king-queen under the gun, which is obviously pretty standard. We get 3-bet in position, and I feel like I'm just going to have to give this hand up. I don't know anything about this guy, and without any sort of knowledge about how he plays, this isn't a spot that I can continue. It is a very good hand to turn into a 4-bet bluff, obviously, because we have just some really great blockers here. We block hands like ace-queen, ace-king, pocket kings, pocket queens. So a considerable part of his value range is reduced. But without knowing anything about him, there's just nothing I can do here. And here with the 10-6, when he 3-X's, I'm just going to have to fold this hand. So, I mean, although I really like squeezing these guys, this guy's stack is just getting too short, so I'm just going to complete here, getting 5-1. And we completely brick this flop. If I had like the king of diamonds or something, I might try and take a stab at this, but with no backdoor draw at all, it's just going to be safer to give it up. It checks through, but I mean, I'm still going to, I think, just check and fold him. Yeah, I'm just going to have to keep checking, unfortunately. I feel like this hand is just going to be too weak, so I'm just going to fold. We'll go ahead and pick up ace-queen here. Again, I don't know anything about this guy. There's certainly some players where I'd be wanting to 3-bet this hand, but I'm just going to call out position. I think that's perfectly fine with this hand. And we get an okay flop. Yeah, I mean, it's okay in the sense that we have two very good blockers to the sort of likely, or most likely king hands that you can have here. So I'm going to certainly take a card off. The 4 pairs, which obviously doesn't really change anything. And it goes check check. We've got 2 options here. We can either bet to try and fold out a hand like pocket 8s, but I feel like he's probably just going to snap off with those hands pretty often. So I'm going to check, and hopefully he just checks back with a hand like ace 10 or jack 10 or something like that. And he does. He has the queen 10 offsuit. So. Here with the king 6, I don't think there's anything we can really do. We're just going to have to fold. Similar situation. I don't think we can call out position here. Similar situation to a hand that we had earlier on, where it's one of those spots where you could possibly turn it into a 3-bet bluff if you knew something about the player, but I don't know anything about this guy, so unfortunately I'm just going to have to make a fold again. And we pick up the ladies under the gun. And we get a little bit of action here from the small blind. See if the big blind's going to come along as well. Big blind puts in a ridiculously large raise here. It's like, what is that, over 4x? I think that's too big, especially considering its stack size. I'm just going to jam the money in here. I don't think there's really any other option. And here's the ace king, so we're going to have to win a race. It doesn't look like we're going to munch. Whoa, there it is. No. Oh, I thought we got that one, but he spikes the extra club on the river, so no dice for us. That's one of those sick flops you're like behind, ahead, behind. Always fun in the poker world. Here with the pocket nines. This is a sort of slightly suspect player. This guy calls as well. I think this is pretty close. Certainly not folding, obviously, but it's pretty close between 3-betting and just calling. We get probably one of the best flops for us that doesn't include a 9, and when he checks, I'm pretty confident we're going to have the best hand. This guy goes ahead and bets pretty large, so I'm just going to check shove this. I feel like with this bet sizing, oh wow, he snaps us off there, that's not looking good for us. Yeah, he's flop bottom set, and he has slow played the aces, so we get it in third place. Wow, that's bad. That's a pretty rough spot. I felt like with the choice of bet sizing that the button chose in that situation, that he certainly never has a set, and I wasn't expecting him to have not 3-bet aces pre-flop, so that's why I chose the line that I did, but obviously we just get it in just absolutely terrible shape. Not only had the under the gun spot checked bottom set, but the other guy had slow played a monster pre-flop, so yeah, one of those spots that you kind of hope it doesn't come up on stream because you end up looking a little bit silly, but I mean overall I think my play's fine in that situation. Vast majority of the time under the gun is going to be folding, and like I said, with the choice of bet sizing from the button, I think most of the time we're good there. We completely brick this flop, but this player just folds a very large amount to C-bets and double barrels, and triple barrels as well in fact, so I'm pretty much going to be looking to C-bet close to 100% against him. He raises in position. I don't expect him to be doing this very light at all. Yeah, it looks like generally his re-raise range includes a lot of Queen X in that situation. I'm not sure really why he does it. I've played with him quite a bit, and he just seems to really like raising hands like Queen Jack in that situation, where he's very rarely going to get it in particularly great shape when I decide to get it in. And here with the pocket threes, I'm going to call. I think this player is sort of a little bit suspect, and I feel like I can profitably set mine even out of position against him. And obviously this is a board that we're just never continuing on. This player is opening a lot of hands. I'm just going to 3-bet this. This is an okay flop for our hand. So a board that's going to contain a lot of gut shots for him with hands like 9, 10, Queen 10, stuff like that. And obviously it's just reasonably hard for him to have a pair when there's 2 8s on the board. So I'm just going to go ahead and C-bet. I'm expecting to take this one down a decent amount of the time. We obviously turn gin here, and it makes our hand a lot easier to play for sure. Would have been a lot more difficult if the 6 hadn't rolled. I think if the 6 doesn't roll, I probably check back and look to call blank rivers. But obviously when we turn the 6, we just have to bet again. I'm guessing our read was accurate in that situation. He probably just had a hand like Queen 10, or maybe just check call with Ace High. I'm going to have to fold here. I would have opened this hand, but there's not much I can do when he opens here. We have under the gun limp here. I think I'm just going to complete and check back here, sorry. It's not really a hand that I want to get involved in squeezing under the gun limps with. If I had like the King 7 or something here, it'd be a lot more tempting. And he checks back. I'm just going to check this down. Puts a small bet out on the turn. I don't think we can call here. And this is a board that I just want to check. A decent amount of his range is going to be sort of better suited connectors like 9-10 suited, 8-9 suited, obviously the pairs as well. Like he can have any pair from sort of 5s to 10s probably. So this range, this board crushes him pretty hard. And I'm going to actually try and steal here. The big blind seems to be playing pretty tight so far. It's unfortunate that he's got a smaller stack. Generally not a hand that I'm going to be opening when there's a couple of short stacks behind me, but given how tight he seems to be playing, I think it's fine. And here are the pocket fires, I'm going to call. And we do go ahead and flop bottom set. I think we just want to go for a check, and probably a check call. He puts in a reasonably large bet here. I mean, half pot would be 2.15, so it certainly makes me think he's more likely to have hit this than not. So I'm actually going to check raise and change our plan. He calls and the turn's a brick, which is obviously very good for us. Two reasons. Obviously, it's possible he can have spades in this situation, so we don't want to see a spade on the turn. But I'm surprised to see him fold so quickly there. But moreover, it's a blank card that shouldn't reduce the amount of value that we can get. And we try and steal here with this 6-4 and get a pretty terrible flop. This is a board that I'm just going to stab at once. And he check raises, which is pretty weird. I mean, if he has a queen in this situation, I don't really like his check raise at all. I kind of, if I was him, I'd want him to have like a jack 10 or something like that if I was check raising. Apologies if you can hear one of my dogs in the background, she's starting to get a little bit antsy. Any of you guys who watch my stream will know the dogs are usually hanging around and sometimes they decide it's playtime, when obviously it's not, it's clearly work time. Here with the ace-2, I can't do anything. This guy's very short, but our hand's pretty bad against his jamming range, so... And here with the ace-8, I'm obviously going to be stealing if it's folded around to us. This guy opens for pot, and I'm just going to fold. And it's certainly going to be stealing here. We get re-raised, and this guy seems to like to 3-bet a lot. With his stack size, it's going to be difficult to get him to fold 2 overcards pre, so I'm just going to call and take a flop. We've got a very playable hand. He checks back that flop, which is kind of interesting. I think I'm just going to check to him again. Guessing he probably has, yeah, it looks like he probably has an ace high in this situation, like an ace-10, which is kind of what I expected. He's going to have like a ton of overcards, and obviously our hand has a ton of equity against those, but moreover, we'll be able to bluff him off on boards that we don't actually connect with, that don't have broad-grade cards on them. So I'm just betting a decent size here. Hopefully he just calls off with like ace-queen or something. It looks like he decides to fold his ace high. I don't think there's much merit to betting small in that situation. I mean, you can probably bet 50 cents and get called by ace high all day, but I think overall you're just going to be better off choosing a decent size and hoping to get paid off instead. This is obviously a pretty good board for us. I'm going to check and check call, try and induce some bluffs. He shouldn't have too many pairs, and he might try and take a stab at this thinking that we're just giving up. And he min-bets, so obviously we're calling. Deuce certainly doesn't change anything here, so I'm just going to check call again. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, unless he's riveted jack or flopped an 8, I think I'm good here. I don't think he's ever betting pocket 4s or something like that. Yeah, here's the 9-4 of diamonds, so I think we played that one pretty well. Here we are about 150 BBs deep, so I'm going to make a call. That's frustrating. So I think I'm just going to fold this hand, and okay, he comes along as well. So we're now getting 3-1. You need to win another 20 post flop. I'm just going to fold this hand. I think it's going to be really tough to show a profit. And that takes us to 45 minutes. So that's my first video for Poker VIP. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know there's been a few requests apparently from guys who wanted to see me do a video. So not the most exciting video ever, but I feel like there's at least 2 or 3 decent spots in there, and I think we managed to show a small profit. So that's always nice on your first video.
Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you never know, you might see me doing another one of these again soon. Cheers, guys.